Thank you all very much. We have Dewberry here it's our final company for the fall semester. As we all know, for this semester, we've had 2 companies per week, so the demand for you all is great. I know you all know that there's a big demand for you all, but at the same time, we want the companies to come and tell you, speak to you about what they have to offer, and they have different packages, meaning different things that they specialize in, different, of course, employment package, but of course, looking at where you see your career. Thank you all for the food. We do have some graduates. All right, they will introduce themselves. All of you are going to talk, right? No? No? No. Not on the slide. But we do have some graduates. Dewberry has hired quite a number of our graduates. See the value of our graduates. Thank you very much for the food. The floor is yours.
All right, good. How do we get the presentation up? Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. and Ruth. Thank you, everybody, for having us. I'm sure I don't know what number we are, but I'm sure you've heard lots of presentations this semester. How many people have joined us? I know last year was virtual, but did anybody join us virtually last year? A couple of you, okay. So I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with Dewberry at this point, but I'm Kristen Remio. I'm the recruiting manager for our Southeast region. Most of you probably know Bill Donnelly. He's our Southeast operations manager. Most of you probably know Jonathan Gibson. He's joined us in the past too. One of our project managers in Panama City. And then Ryan, you're also in Panama City, Ryan, right? Yep. Okay, perfect. So, and then Dawn Hollican is actually on my team. She's one of our recruiters for the Southeast as well, so she's joining us today. So, Bill, you have anything to add?
No, I'll give my chance.
All right. What did I do? There we go. I went through the introductions already, so I'll skip right over that. We'll talk a little bit about the agenda. I'm going to have to back up so I can see this, but we're going to talk a little bit about Dewberry. Obviously get into the fun stuff about surveying, as well as new technology, geospatial technology, and then save the end here for any questions. So we're pretty informal, so if you guys do have any questions, just feel free to stop me in the middle of me talking. So getting to know Dewberry. So again, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with us. We've been around for over 60 years now. Dewberry started and still is a family-owned company. Started in 1956. We actually started as a 3-person surveying firm. So we have now grown to over 2,200 employees in 50 different locations, probably over 50 locations throughout the nation at this point. We have been consistently ranked in the ENR's top design firms, as well as ended up number 11 in the Southeast for top design firms. And continuing to grow here, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. I like to start out kind of by talking about our culture. I do feel like we have a good, strong culture at Dewberry. I mentioned we are family owned. I really feel like that's what drives our culture, especially having been in business as long as we have been. You'll see up here a set of values, and these Dewberry at Work, we call them Dewberry at Work values, are really what guide us, guides collaboration with our teammates, guides collaboration with our clients, as well as really shapes how we do business and just the professionals that we want to be. So I do feel like, there's a lot of firms out there, something that I can personally attest to. I've been with Dewberry for over 6.5 years now, and I really just can't speak highly enough about our culture and our leadership team. So a little about major practice areas. We're a multidisciplinary firm. Most of our offices are multidisciplinary as well. Obviously doing everything from architecture to, we've got a design build component. We also do very heavy in land development and site civil development in terms of engineering. And then we do everything from, telecom to water resources and land surveying, obviously. So we'll talk about that, most importantly, a little bit later on here. So our clients, we do have a very diverse client base. I truly feel like this and just our diversity of our projects is probably what's kept us in business for 60 years, especially when times have struggled. I'm sure Bill could probably speak to that too, but there's obviously been downtimes in the economy, probably within the last 10 years or so. And I think just our diverse portfolio has really helped us, when times have been tough. We also have a lot of long-standing clients. Dewberry's, our focus is our clients. We say that clients are always first. We have, make sure that we keep those relationships and continue to build those relationships. So our locations, our map is growing. This was just updated this year. We actually had 2 acquisitions this year. In the Southeast, we had acquired a small firm in Lakeland, Florida called Hydro Solutions. They were a water firm, about a 20-person water firm. We also recently in June acquired an MEP firm, about a 70-person MEP firm. So they have offices in Nashville, Birmingham, Huntsville, continuing to grow in Huntsville actually as well. And some other locations in the Southeast. So we're adding to our map here. I will say many of our offices, especially along the East Coast, have survey opportunities. Bill's office in Orlando especially, our office in Panama City has survey opportunities. And then we have opportunities from, I would say, Raleigh, North Carolina to Danville up through our Mid-Atlantic region has a heavy survey operation as well. So there's really opportunities for entry level and interns throughout the firm. So we're going to talk a little bit about benefits and then a little bit about professional development. I won't bore you with all the details, but we'll just say that we have a very comprehensive benefits package at Dewberry. Some things that stand out to me, besides us having, healthcare coverage, things that really stand out to me, I would say we have an employee assistance program, which is really beneficial, for people in crisis or times of need, as well as wellness programs that have just started within the last couple of years. We also have paid personal leave, as well as annual leave, 8.5 paid holidays, and then I'm not sure that every firm has a shared leave program, and that's, I think, really helps people out. Times of natural disaster when, people couldn't go to work, or family crises, someone's passed away in the family, there's a shared leave program so that if you don't have the leave, usually there are donations by other people in the company. I just think it's something that, to be a family-owned company, it's probably something you see there, probably not everywhere. But other things about Dewberry, this is kind of getting into our development opportunities. We do have a buddy program, so there's certainly mentoring through the buddy program. I do feel like there's also mentoring at the individual level when you're in offices. You're learning from your licensed surveyors, our engineers are learning from their licensed engineers. So there is definitely a lot of mentorship at Dewberry. We also have different kinds of development opportunities. I feel like Dewberry really invests in something, again, I can attest to having been here for this long, just to invest. They invest really heavily in our development opportunities, developing new skills, really wanting to build strong leaders throughout the firm. You'd also have access to, we have people that have been with Dewberry for 30+ years. So there's a whole network of industry experts that you have access to at Dewberry. We talked a little bit about the buddy program, but essentially when you join Dewberry, whether it be as an intern or an entry level or a senior level hire, you're assigned a Dewberry buddy, and that person really helps you to get acclimated with the firm, and they're there for really anything that you need. And then we actually have, we'll talk about this in a minute as well, but I mentioned that the buddy program introduces new hires and interns to Dewberry. We're going to talk a little bit more about an entry level program, as well as we'll talk a little bit about our intern program. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. Anybody have questions so far? No? Okay. So a little bit more about professional development. We do have a training program at Dewberry. We have a training team as part of HR. They are really the ones that spearhead our training program. We've got a great learning management system that provides you access to just about any kind of training that you could possibly imagine. There's an extensive library of web-based training. Any other training that you might be interested in, Dewberry does encourage and cover the cost of. We also cover the cost of any kind of licensure. There is first-time adjustments in salary for that licensure as well. We do have an orientation program as well. Everyone is given an orientation date, and as part of that orientation, it just kind of helps you learn a little bit more about the company, about our history, about our Dewberry's benefits and culture. Probably similar to what you learned today, but just when you join the team. And then kind of last but not least on this slide here is we actually just started this new engagement program this year in 2021. We have created a program to really help engage the new class, the class of 2020, 2021. I'm on a team that we have information sessions, we have workshops, we do different teaming events. for entry-level employees. And, our goal is to really enhance your experience here and really to make sure that you're kept engaged. So we've done like a disc session, which is kind of a personality-based session in order to get teams to collaborate a little bit more effectively. They're in the process of doing some career planning sessions. We're also in the process of doing some different market-based sessions to just give employees additional access and, help them gain kind of exposure to different areas at Dewberry. So it's something that just started. I feel like it's going well so far, and I think it will continue in the future years. We talked a little bit about this, but educational seminars are reimbursed as well. If there's any educational seminars you're interested in, we also offer tuition reimbursement, $5,250 a year for master's degree programs or anything else that you're interested in at the university level. And then any professional registrations and societies, we do support and cover the cost of those as well.
The tuition reimbursement. So for full-time employees that is online, would they be fully employed at the same time being a full-time student?
Yeah, if you're employed full-time and a student, you'd be eligible for the tuition reimbursement. Good question. We kind of talked about this in the beginning, but and I introduced a couple of folks here already, but we have just had such great success partnering at Troy, which is why we come back here every year. So this is just a list of our current alumni that came from Troy, and just listed by office and everything as well. Our end goal here today is obviously to continue to connect with Troy students, and we'll hope that you'll consider joining our team. I think that's probably the last thing I'll say, but before I pass it along. But I did just want to mention as well, I had mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the map, but we have opportunities throughout the U.S. I would say really from the Mid-Atlantic region down through Florida. We've got opportunities for interns or entry-level hires. Our intern program too is, I feel like it's a very robust program. It's not just like you join and you're doing, getting coffee or anything. You're definitely kept engaged. You're working on exciting projects. We again have different information sessions for interns that continue throughout the summer. There's events for our interns to connect. So there's a lot that is invested in that, and our leadership team invests very heavily in like our university recruiting, whether it be entry level or interns. So if anybody does have questions, like at the end, if you're interested in a specific office, like please come talk to me. I know in the Southeast specifically, most of our groups have told me that we're hiring, so please pass on the word. So, sorry.
It sounds.
I'll have the answer. It's probably.
Same as our largest competitor.
So, and then I'm turning it over to Bill. Having my time constraint.
You're right on.
All right.
We're good. Okay. So am I going to the right?
I think to the right. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm gonna get out of your way.
Just a little bit about our Dewberry Southeast. Kristen had shown earlier the map showing the new office locations in Alabama. Those are MEP offices that are going to have a future survey component. So think about that if you're a couple years out from graduation. Within our team, between Alabama and Florida, at the bottom there, you see there's 85 surveying and mapping professionals. And there's the crew, 22 crews, 10 PSMs, and 16 survey technicians on this particular team. We talked about being a full service firm across the board. Krista mentioned that. We are also a full service surveying and mapping firm, as well as from the geospatial standpoint, we do a lot of work on that side. We feel like we've got a pretty diverse work mix, and we do that on purpose so that if anything fluctuates, whether it be the economy, land development, any of those items, then we can revert back and then charge on to one of the other tasks. One thing we did add recently is we have a lot of senior survey managers on the staff. So we've picked up GEC review contracts. So we review for other consultants at the DOT level and also for the Expressway Authority. And that also engages some of the younger staff because they're doing CAD compliance and stuff like that. So as I mentioned before, I just wanted to kind of show that's our work mix. You would think with Dewberry being an engineering firm that 90% of our work would be Dewberry work, but it's not. You can see the mix there. Our internal work is roughly about 25%. So we're extremely diverse. Our power side of things with NextEra, who just bought Gulf Power and is getting ready to leap into Alabama, is about 30% of our business as well. We've been working with them since 2000. We talked about our standard survey component. You know, we're full throttle on our standard stuff, the boundaries, the topos, the condominium documents, particularly around the resort areas. Subdivision platting, I would venture to guess that we've probably got at least 50 plats in the hopper right now between all of our groups in the Panhandle. We do a lot of subdivisions and a lot of land development work. So right-of-way mapping is kind of a specialty at the DOT and also at the municipal level. We have 6 mappers based throughout Georgia and Florida that work remotely doing right-of-way maps, and that takes a special person to do that. Our roadway design surveys, that's part of our DOT component. This particular project is a mix between mobile LiDAR, aerial LiDAR, and conventional survey for underpasses and stuff like that. So we do the right-of-way survey, the utilities, and then we support all the way through eminent domain on the condemnation side. I know if any of you have been here before, our transmission side of things is a big part of our business. Right now, we're working on a 48-mile line from Defuniak Springs down to the beach in Santa Rosa. So that's a full LiDAR flight, and then we're coming back. We're going to have to buy 400 parcels on that job. So there's an immense amount of mapping that goes on with those projects. The average project's 10 miles, and overall, we've done over 1,000. Our solar projects, you know, when I reported on this before, the solar boundaries, which also include aerial topo or drone topo, we started out just in Florida, and now NextEra actually has projects going in all 50 states. So Georgia and Alabama, we've started getting insights in those locations that are for future stuff there. Our subsurface utility engineering, it's not usually a hot point with all the surveyors, but it's something that has to get done. So we do have a standalone team that does utility excavation, you know, project mapping, reporting, and all of that stuff. So that's kind of just an overview. And Ryan's going to come up and he's going to do a little showcase presentation on a couple projects he's been working on, and then I'll finish up with some of the new technology that we've recently acquired.
Thanks. Good afternoon, my name is Ryan. I just graduated from Troy in 2018. I immediately started working with Dewberry, and I can't say enough about the company. I mean, they're a bunch of awesome guys out of Panama City. Jonathan, he's kind of spearheaded with training me. There's another licensed surveyor, Eric Rankin, and David Bartlett, but he and I work real close together with numerous projects, but we do a lot of hydrographic surveying. There's our boat Nemo. We do a bunch of dredge survey monitoring, beach monitoring. Typically anything that needs surveying below, like in water areas, we can do it. We also have a little John boat for, you know, areas that are harder to reach that Nemo cannot. That's some of the equipment that we use on the boat. We currently have the 2019 HiPAC software on our laptop, together with our GPS units, Ross Eco Sounder. We use a single beam transducer. Also have a digital compass and the velocity probes. Here's just pictures of what each one looks like. Eco Sounder is in the cabin inside the boat that I monitor while the captain drives the boat. He's a Florida grad, Andrew Furr. The transducer is mounted in the center of the boat. It kind of scans the bottom of the ocean floor. The digital compass is mounted on the inside as well. It gives you real-time pitch, roll, and compensates for other variables during post-processing. and the velocity probe, I think we rent that from SCE or SES. Here's what it looks like on board. The Eco Sounder shows you what you're scanning on the surface. If you see here, all of these bunched up trash is what we call it. We have a compensator, this gray bar, you can't really tell in this picture, but it's called blanking. You turn that on, you can change it from different intervals, and it basically doesn't pick up any data within that grayscale. So that helps with the post-processing. You don't have to go through circling all the trash points that you're not really concerned with. This is what the captain sees on the laptop in the middle. The long arrow here is like oriented north, and that's our boat. So we can navigate to each plan line that Rankin provides us. They're usually about, depending on the job, anywhere from 50 to 100 feet to even 1,000 feet apart. We just kind of pick the line you want to start on. High pack, you get within 25 to 50 foot radius of the start of the line, and it just starts logging all your information there. It gives you all these readings as well.
The plan lines that he's talking about that are created are built based on the project needs from whoever we're doing the survey work for. So if we're doing a beach renourishment type survey where we have to have tighter data, the plan lines are closer together. If we're doing just some monitoring surveys, they can be farther apart. And so when we get that information from the client, whoever we're doing the work for, Eric Rankin, who does most of the hydro work there, does basically a project planning session, and he puts those plan lines in there. Those lines show up on the instrumentation that we have in the boat, and that's what the captain follows when he's doing the surveys.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll have field crews on the upland side. While you're beach monitoring, they want it to be from, so far out offshore all the way up to across the dunes or whatnot. And so they'll have the same plan lines. They try to stick with us to see how close we can get to shore, because they want to pick up a little bit of overlap so you can compare the boat's data to what the GPS data has. Also, you don't want any gaps in your topo. But here's a list of some of the projects that we've had over the past couple of years. Most of these are pretty recurring every year. A lot of your beach monitoring is every year. You might have a couple of different dredging here and there, especially after Hurricane Michael. So the last two projects I'm going to talk about today, here's what we were talking about earlier, is the plan lines. That's kind of what we see. You'll give us like a PDF spreadsheet or whatever, and we can go off that. That would be what it looks like whenever we get done with the surveys. A lot of contours. That's another deliverable that Rankin provides our clients. But we are doing a dredge survey for Eastern Shipbuilding Group over in Panama City. They're building a ship for the Coast Guard, and they're kind of getting close to finishing. So I'm sure you've seen videos or whatnot of, the boats being launched off the side of the shipyard, like in the picture shown. And so they hired a dredge company to come in, dredge out the area where the boat's planning to be launched. And they want to make sure that the dredge company meets that target depth so that there's no issues of, the boat hull hitting the bottom and causing some potential damage or a lot of problems. So that's the current ship or the area that we're doing now. You can see the barge here. It's got the dredge on the back. It's pretty cool. Here is the planned areas that the dredge company was provided and the permit was provided to the dredge company. However, either their software dredge pack was off or the contractor pulled a wrong measurement off the head wall. So everything, if you can see in this picture here, the planned contour lines are here for 25 and 35. But everything is shifted about 40 or 50 feet. And so they were using they had spray painted some orange marks on the seawall. And so I had to go into the yard, take a shot on each spray mark, and then compare that to where their current dredging is in the blue line there. So they got it right, it's just shifted to the west about 40 feet. But for the Coast Guard, that's not gonna fly. So we had to go out there, survey it again. I set them some stakes on the head wall so they can know how far off they are from their target area. So they had to go back and survey it or dredge it again. And then we had to go back, I think, Wednesday to survey it again. We've probably been out there like 5 or 6 times trying to get it right. And also they asked us to, the contour interval, like 24 and 20 feet. We kind of put out little buoys, tied some weights at the bottom and kind of staked out the area where they want to kind of bring it in at that bend up there to give them their dredge limits. Another beach project that we have is the Mexico Beach Canal Dredge. It got pretty wrecked after Hurricane Michael. So a lot of debris, a lot of dirt built up. There's some boats kind of far in the back, you can't tell there, but it goes on back pretty good ways. But we got in there and it was probably like 1 foot to 2 foot deep in some areas, and some of those big boats in there can't even get out. And so they plan to start that. I think we did the pre-dredge survey already, and it shouldn't be long before we have to start doing the weekly monitoring. And then of course, when they get done, we have to do the post-dredge survey.
That community he's talking about right there, that's the only canal with deep water access to the Gulf within 30 miles one way or the other. Okay, so you have this little small town that's in the middle of Tyndall Air Force Base, Panama City, and Fort St. Joe, and so that canal right there is a huge economic booster for that small town. So if that canal was to fill in, it was dug years and years ago, if that canal was to fill in, you don't have any deep water access, so the people that live there that have large boats are gonna have to truck them 30 miles one way or the other to put them in to be able to go offshore. So there's a lot of money for the economy that's based right there on that simple, what looks like a simple canal there. And so it's important to those communities that they maintain that canal. Some of the other projects that Ryan was talking about, that being that we're right on the coast, we get a lot of opportunities to go after these hydrographic surveys. For us, we're the only ones close to where we are that have the equipment to do the work. Like Ryan was talking about, Eric Rankin, one of our Florida graduates, that's been doing this a while. Ryan's kind of following behind him, trying to learn, get these things set up. Right now, Ryan's doing a lot of the work, either setting the control that the boat's going to use or working on the boat with the boat captain. Back in 2019, right? January 2019, Dewberry sent him to the high-pack schools to learn how we set up the boats. The software doesn't work unless you go in there and tell it what kind of vessel you're using, give it offset measurements, because it uses GPS, RTK GPS with a base station on land. And so in order for all that equipment to work, you got to go in, you got to build a vessel. So there's a lot of parts and pieces to the hydro work that you have to have, and you have to have it right before you go out there. Everything that you get is going to be off. We do the beach renourishment there in our area. We have an erosion control line in Bay County, and that is we get storms and things like that, and it erodes the beach all the way up to the backs of these houses along the Gulf. And so they had to come up with a solution. So in 1997, they went out and they did a survey. They came up with a common contour, which was, I think, 7 feet, I think is what they came up with. And basically the state purchased that land from the adjacent riparian owners, the people that lived on the water. And so the state has the right to go in there and pump sand back up onto the beach to keep the beach from washing away. Sometimes what we do with these hydro jobs is they'll have to take dirt from offshore. So they identify an area offshore that could be a mile or two, where they can go out and dredge a big hole, pump that sand all the way back up on the beach because it's the right type of dirt that goes on the beach. And they filter all the shells out of it, and then they re-nourish the beach out front so that people have beach to walk on. There are some areas close to us that did not agree to go in that erosion control and sell the land, and they have to re-nourish the beach on their own. And sometimes it can cause some very costly problems, wave action beating up the backside of condominiums and things like that. So one of the things that we do in the Panama City office, one of the more technical types of things other than normal general surveys, is the hydro. That's one of the things that Ryan wanted to talk about today. Ryan's also a licensed drone pilot, but we haven't quite gotten to the drone training and all that yet. But this is one of the things that we had and one of the things that we wanted to invest in. And like Kristen was talking about, Dewberry tries to invest in its young professionals. All I had to do was say, hey, there's a training, this is what we would like to do. And Dewberry came back and said, let's go do it. And they paid for it. We went and spent 3 days and went through all of that. So that's one of the things that Dewberry does do well. When I graduated from here in 2005, I went to a mom and pop survey company that had 8 crews at the time. We were really busy, and they didn't diversify quite like Dewberry does. We just did land development only. And when the economy slowed down in 2008, we went from 8 crews to 4. And there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to go and do some of these highly technical areas of survey. So when I moved over to Dewberry in 2019, it was eye-opening to me. I was concerned about going to a corporation because it's a big corporation. But like Kristen said, Dewberry is a family-owned from the foundation business. So even in our Panama City office, we work like that office is our office. If you need to get a hold of somebody, you can get a hold of somebody. You need to talk to somebody, you can. Dawn is our recruiter over in Pensacola. She and I talk quite a bit. We're trying to hire field staff. You can get a hold of Kristen if you want to. You can get a hold of the Southeast managers if you want to. It's very easy. So there's always somebody there. If you run into an issue, Bill, he's always around when I need to get some ideas from him on some things that he's run into that we haven't yet. So that's one of the things that makes Dewberry special, at least to me, is it's a corporation with the same, small business type feel that a number of the guys I graduated with haven't gotten in the corporations when they went to corporations. Now that's not to say all of them aren't, some of them aren't like that as well, but for me, Dewberry is that way. And Ryan's taken that opportunity and he's kind of run with it. And you see, the more of this we do and the better we get at it, the more projects we're going to get from other people doing those same things. So,
do you not have a drone, a boat that is?
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah,
Bill's got it.
it's coming up here in a minute.
Yeah.
There it is, right there.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking
We can talk
about
about
a boat.
Yeah,
There's
he's
one
got
there,
one.
Well, that one?
Yeah, so, thanks, Ryan, I appreciate it. So on the technology side, as Jonathan mentioned, Dewberry's not afraid to spend money to stay standard with the times. So this is our hydrone vessel, and it's basically all over Southwest Florida, they're putting power underground. So anywhere these power lines are crossing canals, they have to back up and directional drill so that they have a 30-inch, 3-foot clearance under the bottom of the canal. So the crew will just basically walk that to the side of the water. It's fully autonomous, and then they just run the remote control. You have an RTK unit on the boat and a data collector mounted to that rod, and it basically just goes back and forth and does what the big vessel that Ryan talked about. So we've got that with a single beam, and then we've got a multi-beam in Virginia that they use on doing some larger river surveys and such. That drone up there is an IF 1200 with a Regal sensor on it. And so a lot of the power stuff that we're doing for Dominion and these other power groups, with exception of flying over substations, you can see the pole in the background, and we were flying that transmission crossing over that particular highway. As we mentioned before, when you combine, what we've done is really pushed hard to combine our geospatial and survey components. That way, there's a cross sales component there, but also, it gives us 300 people in that group now that are performing those types of services. So all of that is getting looped into one. For a great number of years, the surveyors, were on one side, and then the geospatial were on the other. Primarily because of our client bases were different, but we found a way to pull all that together. So a little bit about the new technology we bought. This is a Regal sensor, and then we've also bought a bathymetric LiDAR sensor. So this particular unit is one of only 2 units in the United States, and we're the only commercial firm in the United States that has that particular unit. The planes are based out of Tampa. The twin engine, when you see the size of this unit, it runs the hydro unit, and then the single engine runs the standard Regal unit. And so this is kind of a caption of the Regal unit. It's a VQ1560. It's the top of the line. It has the ability to gather almost 3 million points per second. So you're looking at a very dense point cloud. We use this unit for flying power lines and such, where the requirement by most power companies is 35 points per meter, so that they can get an accurate point cloud of the attachments, the lattice tower work. It's same as flying a cell tower. The level of detail that you get off of that, as well as the level of accuracy on the vertical side. So typically we'll take that 35 points per square meter, we'll merge this with what we've flown with the drone, and then we will put that into a program called PLS CAD. And basically that's the power generation software. That's their tool, that's what they use, and that's what we deliver in. So, you guys are pretty familiar with LiDAR. So basically most of the applications are above ground, urban areas, that kind of thing. Stadiums, dams, you name it, that's the kind of stuff. And I'll show you a picture of kind of a unique agriculture and forestry component. This is the monster topobathy LiDAR sensor. It looks like a refrigerator in there, but basically this gives us the ability, and both units have cameras built in them, so they're taking imagery the whole time. But this gives us the ability to run hydro and uplink LiDAR at the same time. This particular unit can penetrate 50 meters of water. So you're talking about 150 feet of water. And there's obviously different components to that, but this particular unit was purchased. We just finished a survey for the federal government of the Potomac River with this thing. And then we used the hydro underneath a couple of the bridges. So this unit is slated for a big project that's coming out. Florida has set aside $100 million to map the entire coastline of the state of Florida. And it's going to, this allows us to get it, well, if you're in the Gulf, it's flat for miles. You could literally take days to get out to 150 feet. So this particular unit will basically loop the whole peninsula, as well as some of the areas in Texas as well that we're looking at coastal mapping here. So this is a big investment. Not only is it unique, but we're the only commercial operator of it right now. So we're gonna take that to a limit. And so here's just kind of a snapshot, of the river itself, and then also the LiDAR that's been pulled to the outside edges of it. Its highest and best use is coastal mapping. So that's what we tend to primarily use it for. As far as, getting into our GIS component, last time we had a couple different graphics, but now the government's gone to a mode where we don't just fly it after the thing's been obliterated. We fly it before. If we don't have current data, we'll go in there 2 days before we know the storm's coming. They'll just fly more than they think they need. And then they will come in afterwards, and then they can actually run modeling to know where access points are going to be, how many citizens are in that area, what kind of feet. And basically it's set into a model to set all the FEMA trucks in motion as to what is potentially going to be of high impact and what structures and what kind of people are going to be displaced. So this is basically a shot of one that we did. And, you know, our charge with the government is we have to get imagery back to them within 24 hours of the storm. So we got to be, as soon as that thing's out of there, the plane's in flight, trying to get that imagery done where we can provide back to them so that they can get all the mobilizations done. This is another nice feature of doing the post-disaster LiDAR. This can be done with a drone. Most of the time it is done with a drone. You'll see that like the folks from the power company are looking at their system, all other people. So for FEMA, you can see in GIS where they're basically calculating debris. Whenever a hurricane comes, you see the stuff just mounded up for months and months. Well, this tells them how many different contractors to mobilize and how much they're going to get paid. And you know, in the old days, it wasn't a fine science. The guy would have a ticket in his notebook, and you know, whether the truck was half full or full, the guy's getting paid. So this kind of gives a little better handle for the government to figure out what potentially they're going to be spending in a certain area, as well as what structures are just not going to be habitable. So yeah, this is kind of the format. Determine the area of interest, obtain data up front, create the flood depth grid, and that's basically showing that, okay, we got the gauges already out, this storm's coming, we're looking at, you know, potentially 12 to 15 feet of storm surge. All that's pre-modeled so that they know how far inland that sucker's going to create havoc. Back on the hydrographic LiDAR sensor. So we're using this. We have a program with NOAA. A lot of y'all are familiar with top spot maps for fishing in water bodies, lakes, that kind of thing. So this program enables us to keep a current updated file of what's going on along the coast in any particular port. So it's a new program. That new sensor is going to be updating a lot of these navigation maps, primarily in the ports where you have sea vessels coming and going, delivering, you know, containers and that kind of thing. So we're just getting into this, and it's going to be continually updated because every time you have a storm, something changes. This is just one of the end results of being able to utilize that topobathy LiDAR. This is a cross section, and that's what it looks like. You can see where that last storm pushed all of that dune, basically all of that dirt up into the shore. This is back on the top spot, what I call the top spot maps. That's what I always used when I was fishing them. So this program is going to be ongoing around the entire United States coastlines. In addition, that same unit can measure vegetation underwater. So where we have areas of seagrass, where the seagrass has experienced red tide or a storm, like for instance in the southern Gulf down by the Keys, we've flown those areas, and so that they can tabulate malnourished or nutrition or dead seagrass beds, and then we'll go back and fly in a year to see if they're starting to make a comeback, and that's through one of our water management district contracts, but it's just more, we're basically profiling aquatic vegetation all over the Southeast, and this kind of shows you on the bottom is kind of, that's a good spot for seagrass, and it's got a lot of good vegetation there. You can see the channels on each side. What I alluded to before on forestry, so a lot of the big timber producers are utilizing LiDAR now to set forth cut schedules. So when you see the red on the top, those are at a mature state to where they're ready to be harvested. And typically they're all planted in, you know, pretty close proximity from a time standpoint. And so you'll have large groupings of those where you fly it, and a lot of them are doing it with drone technology as well. But you can cover a large area with a plane in no time. So that's basically so that they can go in and clip that stuff that's up on the top. Power, as I mentioned before, we're doing a lot of LiDAR for power. That's a 35 point per square meter screenshot. You can see the attachments, you can see the lines. see the sag. All of those are important components to the power folks. So that LiDAR is essential for that. And just planning and land use. If you've got a 3,000 acres, you want to put a subdivision, a future subdivision in. Obviously, LiDAR is going to tell you where your wetlands are. It's going to give you a topography of the ground without having to physically go out there and survey it. And so a lot of people are doing go, no-go decisions on big projects by utilizing LiDAR now. And, for instance, we've completed the whole state of Florida, so it's all now at USGS. It's approved, so any surveyor can go and pull down the LiDAR for his county if he's looking to get a check on some topo that they've done and that kind of thing. Real estate and commercial, that's mostly drone stuff, and this is an industrial rebuild area that we're doing in the Northeast. Airports, we're starting to pick up some work with some airports, primarily to make sure that, the FAA has regulations that you can't have anything within so many miles over 110 feet tall. And so we're doing QC for the Department of Defense around their airfields throughout the United States with that. And then here's one thing you never thought you'd use LiDAR for, is to determine what mowers you're going to use to cut right away. So basically, this was a South Florida project, and what they were trying to do is minimize, they paid double for this one because it'll cut on a slope, and so they utilized LiDAR for Hillsborough County to determine the areas that they need to be charged for the slope machine versus the regular machine. So that was all done at 30 points per square meter, super dense, but that's just another use for the LiDAR. And that's it. So kind of just showcase what we've got right now in the bag, and we plan to keep adding to that. I think our big thing is going to be supplementing both the drones and the hydro because of the amount of work that's happening in the waterways. Jonathan talked about dredging, but primarily, if they're going to take most of the power that's on a coastal region and put it underground, then we're going to have a use for that. And so the nice thing about the hydro that we showed, you can take all that equipment, take it off and mount it on a John boat with a 10 horsepower motor and basically have both components with you at the same time. Do canals in the morning, do the big canals in the afternoon. So it really is, it's a nice tool, and the data that comes out of it is really, it's top notch. So.
One of the other things too is, we talk about a lot of these highly technical things and these really cool pieces of equipment, but there were a number of students, and some of you guys may be that way too, that you enjoy the legal aspect of land surveying, the physical land survey type work, boundary disputes, things like that. There's an opportunity for that. I came up doing that with the company that I went to work for, because we didn't have the equipment that Dewberry has. And so some of you may be interested in that. We do that as well. Another couple of projects Ryan was involved in that we put him on purpose was some section breakdown work, where this client of ours owns thousands and thousands of acres, and they want to develop a certain area. And so we went out, and we didn't have to necessarily do the field survey work to create this this plan map that they had, but we elected to go out and break the sections down and to tie the section corners and get all the boundary stuff worked out beforehand so that we don't run into any issues later. And, as a way to kind of help train Ryan in things that he wouldn't ordinarily get to do, we picked that project for him. So he got to go out, he got to do the research, and he got to work with us and make sure that he was doing, what we needed done, all the while doing his own research as well. So there's opportunities to do that kind of work as well, if that interests you. One of the guys I graduated with, Eric Wright, he works for the BLM, and he really loved boundary work, so he went to work for the Eastern States. Now he's the Eastern States manager, so he gets to do a lot of the Native American and boundaries and things like that. And he's the only surveyor that I know of that gets to do actual retracement surveys and put in corners and call them the corner. The rest of us can just put in what we consider to be the corner. So There's all kinds of opportunities within Dewberry, from the highly technical, really cool stuff to, if you really like boundary stuff, there's that there too. You know, you can get into litigation if you like that kind of thing. Nobody really cares for that for the most part, but you know, you can be an expert witness, you know, on certain projects, things like that. So anyway, it's a huge, diverse portfolio within one company that you can be involved in.
Yeah, we've got a huge array of experts. So one expert is sectional land grants. One is right away, and all of them are expert witness, you know, testimony folks. So if you ran into something as a project manager, you can call or send that to them and say, hey, give me a quick look at this. Do we need to go get some more information? Do we need to go tie some more corners, that kind of thing? And one thing I did want to mention is, you know, Ryan's managing projects now. When did you graduate, Ryan?
2018.
2018. So I have 5 grads in Orlando. 3 of those 5 are graduated in 18, 19, and Jacob Olmstead, Cliff Young, and then Garrett Mitchell are all 3 full project managers at this point. So 3 years is about the average if you're willing to apply yourself and really get into it. And then there's a couple others that, like Mike DeShira, he came a couple years later. He started out with a small company doing cell tower sites, and he said, you know, this isn't going to get me where I need to go. So he's on board now and working his way. He's going to specialize in subdivision platting. So he likes it. It's a niche. And so he's going to take that part over for us and eventually run a department just doing subdivision plats. But anyway, as Jonathan mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity. Some of it has all the bells and whistles, some of it doesn't. It really just depends what you like to do. But the one thing is if you work for us, you get to experience all of them without going to 5 firms. That's kind of the gist of it. And, you know, a lot of our crews are working, whether it's power, transportation, they're cross-trained. So you might work on a DOT job and say, no, I'm done. I don't want to be in a highway. This isn't for me. Then you've got the opportunity to work in the woods or on these other large projects. But the goal obviously is to have all of you licensed and, you know, within the 4 years, and have all the as project managers and future office managers. So that's kind of the track that we have all the folks on right now.
Certainly, you are on some big projects. I mean, and also, I must say, hats off to you. You guys, we didn't teach you on hydrographic survey, but you did well. So try to tell our graduate students that when they get their first degree, it's the ability to learn. All right, certainly you're certainly identified that. Very good, very good. Can you give us some idea about the core opportunities? Because a lot of them still have to do one more core.
Like an internship?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've had, obviously, folks from here come and intern with us, and that's how they ended up staying with us. And so what I would recommend is 2 or 3 of you come, because the way Garrett and them did it, they all came and they got an Airbnb. And so they were able to come lessen the expense load there. But we would be willing to work with you guys on that if it came down to somebody just as an individual. A lot of times, you know, they've got family. So, you know, Cliff had family in Melbourne, not too far away. So when he interned, he was able to commute from his sister's place. So if you don't have that option, I would be looking at getting a couple people, 2 or 3 people to help, and then we could obviously help with that as well. So, but we're wide open on internships anytime. Yeah, 100%. So summer, winter, whenever.
Yeah.
Come on over.
I would just add to, you know, they're obviously paid internships. We are competitive with the market. While we don't offer relocation for internships, we do offer relocation assistance for entry-level positions. So, you know, if you're moving for a full-time entry-level position, then we definitely offer relocation and, you know, sign-on bonuses. So
Right.
just wanted to mention that as well. And, you know, Bill kind of said it, but our goal of all of our interns throughout the firm is to hire you as full-time. Like that is our goal. And we have a lot of people every year that transition to full-time from interns.
I think our capture rate is high. And when you look at it, the amount of Troy grads that are still here says something about well, they always come to me and say, wow, I never knew I was gonna learn all this in 2 years. So, I mean, that's kind of really getting in there and just working your way up through the different things that we have in store. But, and some folks are really getting into the, Florida has a big push on the geospatial side. And it's all LiDAR, and the whole program's, this and that, and GIS, and so they're kind of starting to squeeze out the survey aspect of it, which we are not going to do, But that's the nice thing about Troy, is you're still teaching that. You're still working at it.
These students joined because 99% of them said they want to become a licensed surveyor, and we do have a continued relationship with the ESPLS, so we're going to always support that.
That's perfect. I can tell you that a lot of surveyors are dying and a lot of them are retiring. I hate to say it, but we have that discussion all the time. Yeah, we got to keep getting people licensed, and I tell my son he's a PE, and I'm talking him into going to get his survey license, because I said a dual license is one thing, but there's no shortage of PEs right now, but there is a major shortage of surveyors, and it's up in the ante on the salary side every week. I can definitely say that, because we're seeing it firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely, and, we need more surveyors in, especially in the state of Florida, because, like you said, a lot of them are showing up on the obituaries that we get once a month in the magazines from the MS magazine, and then the rest of them are retiring. And even though you've got UF, you've got Troy here, it's just that you're just not processing enough graduates to replenish. And so because of that, they're not like engineers where they're a dime a dozen, essentially. When I went to go take my survey exam, I went to the wrong room. There were hundreds and hundreds of tables. And they told me I was in the wrong room. I was in the engineering room. I had to go around into the back at the hotel I was at. So I went in the back. There were 20 of us. And probably half of them were, at that time, the ones that were grandfathered in that didn't have a degree. And after that year, there was no more of that. So there's probably only 20 each session of surveyors. So because of that, you guys are in a great position to, be a very marketable individual when you show up to a survey firm. Depending on what it is you choose to do, what career path you choose to take, you're going to be marketable either way. So like Dr. Ramroot used to always tell us when I was here to just make sure you sell yourself well. It's easier and easier to sell yourself well if you know what you're doing. Of course, we would obviously check with Dr. Ramroot and make sure that whatever you were selling us was good. But and I'm sure it is. But anyway, it's a great opportunity for all of y'all at this stage of the game. Anyway.
Yeah, and I know two of the folks that we have in the manager program in Orlando are looking to get back to Alabama once we're able to get established in those offices. So at that point, they'll be ready to manage an office when they come back up here, but they're looking to get closer to home. They're specifically there with a knowledge base in mind, and then what they can do after that with it is go wherever they want, basically, but encouraging them to stay on board and find an office that they might like to work in. So. Any questions? Well, good. We're glad y'all stayed or came today. We really are. And we've gotten a lot out of Troy, and we're very appreciative of the program. So if any of you guys are thinking about it, let us know, call Kristen or Dawn, or just call me. I mean, we don't really talk money and everything, because then our competition, so if people are interested in knowing stuff like that, we're open to phone conversations, just not putting it on the board. Because we are being filmed, right?
I think so. But my card is right out there on the bulletin board, so feel free to call or email me.
We're very competitive. I just want
Yeah.
to throw that out there.
And if nothing else, please take, our college recruiting team has sent us lots of giveaways, so please take them. We have water bottles now. I don't know if you saw these. I don't have one, but.
I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, I know. So please feel free to take.
Yeah.
So, and food, please take the rest of the food as well.
But thank you
Thank you,
very much.
everybody. Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
What I'd like is, open invitation to Dewberry again to come back, because these guys are about to graduate typically in the spring and summer.
So is everybody a senior in here today?
Yes, sir.
Body but count.
And we have a few of them that also didn't come there, so that's nice. But,
I'll pull the bus up and pick y'all up.
thank you very much, appreciate it.
Perfect.